welcome to episode 17 of the Craft House Magic podcast. I am your host, Ellie Jones-Cossey. As we recently got married, a few weeks ago now, just before the honeymoon. And today is Monday the 29th of May, and I've been married for just over 3 weeks now. How crazy is that? So we've been on honeymoon to Florida, for those of you who haven't watched before. And I have had a bit of a hiatus from podcasting because of the honeymoon. But I'm back now, and I should be podcasting every 2 weeks as normal. So it's lovely to be back in my craft room. I did take some knitting on holiday, but I didn't actually do very much, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So if you want to find me on Instagram and Ravelry, I'm Craft House Magic in both places. I've also got a website called crafthousemagik.co.uk where you can find links to my other sites such as my Etsy shop, etc. So today we've got lots of things to talk about, especially confessions. But I'll leave it to the end so you don't have to watch it if you're not interested in being enabled. I've bought far too many things, and I've been gifted some things as well, so it's lovely. So we've got knitting, we've got sewing, and we've got Blast from the Past and gadgets as normal, rather a large confessions section, and then a couple of Ask Me Anything questions, which is lovely. So we've got 2 knit-alongs that are going on at the moment. One's called A Little Pleasures KAL, which I'm running in my group. I've got a discussion thread and a finished objects thread, and the rules are basically that you can knit absolutely anything that gives you pleasure, as long as it makes up to about 30 grams. It can be knitting or crochet, and the rest of the rules are on the chatter thread in the discussion group on Ravelry, so if you want to have a look there. But there's some lovely things that people have been putting up already. There's a gorgeous little teddy bear that somebody's knitted. I'm afraid I can't remember who it was. I should have made a note of it, but it's absolutely gorgeous, and lots of pairs of lovely socks and mittens and things, so go and have a look over on the Ravelry group. Lots of lovely ideas of what to knit to have little pleasures. Don't forget the Cozy Memories blanket, and parts of blankets are included on there as long as you've knitted about 30 grams. So that's one of the knit-alongs, and they're also doing a knit-along with the lovely Emma of Eldenwood Craft. I can't speak. Hi Emma! So we've decided to do a lovely knit-along for the striped mittens by Badagak. I've probably, according to Badagak, I've probably completely butchered that pronunciation. But it's by the Lena Gerald. It's a free pattern on Ravelry if you're interested, and you can come and join us. And if you have actually knitted up to one of the mittens, not the pair, you can come and join in too if you've already started them, so that's lovely. What we'd like you to do, me and Emma, is if you'd like to join both mine and her Ravelry groups to be eligible for prizes, and then just post the finished objects in my finished objects thread, which I'll be opening very soon, and that'll be lovely to see what you've been knitting. I've got my pair started, which I'll show you in my works in progress section with my knitting, and I think we'd better get started with the knitting section. So it's really difficult to keep up when you haven't done a podcast for nearly 4 weeks. I just completely lost track of everything. So in the last episode, it was about 5 days before my wedding, I believe, and I was knitting some socks for Adam, and they were to Darcy with Love socks, and they've got this gorgeous stitch pattern. You can see the beautiful stitch definition there with this socks. So these socks I wanted to knit for Adam, so the pattern's called To Darcy with Love, but I've called mine To Adam with Love. How cheesy. We love a bit of cheese, don't we? So these socks were knitted with Artisano sock definition, Artisano definition sock, for the main colour, and then I used some, what do you call it, West Yorkshire spinners in one of the blue colourways I'd got left over from another pair of socks. I'm a bit embarrassed. I'm trying to hide the base of the sock because Adam's shoes have dyed them slightly. They have been worn. He wore them on our wedding day. How cute is that? But I'm really pleased with these, and I'd love to knit another pair because I absolutely love this stitch pattern that Ruth's designed here. And what I would probably do next time is, because Ruth's designed them with a plain front, is to continue that pattern all the way down the foot. That would be amazing. Beautiful. So those were finished. I literally finished them on the morning of the wedding, so Adam could wear them. So they weren't blocked when he wore them, but I have washed and blocked them afterwards, just to show you guys. Definitely washed before you got to see them. So I also I showed you these before, but these are my To Love and To Cherish socks that I designed, and they're a free pattern on Ravelry, and I wore these on the wedding morning as well. Obviously I didn't wear them with my wedding dress, but when I was getting ready I wore these. But just to remind you, for the Little Pleasures KAL, that if you knit my socks, they're a free pattern, you'll get 2 entries to the prize draw. So for each pair of these you can get 2 entries. So don't forget to put your entries into the finished objects thread. So that was lovely. So we both wore hand knitted socks during the day of our wedding, and I also got my dad and Adam's dad wore their hand knitted socks as well. So it was a very handmade wedding. Right, so on to works in progress. Actually, this is kind of half finished. So I've got a pair of socks that I've been knitting on, and I've got one sock finished. So these socks are the Socks with Holes In by Luli, and she's got a lovely pattern collection on Ravelry, which you can download, which includes these socks with holes, some plain socks and some shorty socks as well, which have got a different type of ventilation. They're called socks with ventilation, I think, and also some slightly ribbed socks she's got as well. But I wanted to try all those patterns out because I really enjoyed knitting this sock. So there's a really lovely, easy, very intuitive holey section just there, and I really enjoyed knitting that. She's got a lovely way of writing how she does her heel, which is slightly different from where I've seen it ever written before, so that was really lovely, to do with the slip stitches, which is different from wherever. I've never seen it written like that, so that was really nice to try that out. And there's a lovely sort of circular decrease toe which is on there, which is really nice too. So I definitely recommend Lee's pattern. So she's Luli on Ravelry, and you can download either, I think you can download the patterns separately if you don't want to do the whole set, but they're just such an ideal sock set. Just covers every sort of necessity for sock knitting, really. So I'm really I am enjoying knitting these socks. I finished the first one and I've started the second one. So the yarn, I forgot to tell you already, is a Nora George yarn, and it's called Fleur Delacour, and I was knitting these on holiday. And it was very appropriate because at Universal Studios there's like a Harry Potter land, so Fleur Delacour, very appropriate. Although I didn't actually take my knitting into the parks. So this is the second sock. I've actually got up to the stage where I've got the heel flap to start now. Lee designed her socks to be slightly longer, but I've done them a little bit shorter just because I prefer slightly shorter socks. But I think they're nice as well. So this yarn is really, really pretty. I think if you look at the sole of the foot, you can really see how the speckles are coming up there. Really, really pretty. So I definitely recommend the Fleur Delacour colourway in Nora George's yarn. If I come back a bit, you can see the whole foot. So there we go. So I've only got the heel and the foot to do in that set, and then that should be finished. I haven't, literally the only thing that I knitted on when I was away on holiday was that sock, and I think I knitted about 75% of it when I was away, which is not very much knitting for me for 2 whole weeks. I'm very proud of myself, as it was a honeymoon. I actually talked to Adam quite a lot, which he was very pleased about, I think. But I did some knitting by the pool, which is lovely. So my plan was to knit on the plane on the way there, which would have been 9 hours of knitting. You wouldn't believe what happened. So I was going to knit my lovely shawl that I've knitted quite a lot of, and this is another of Ruth's patterns that I've been knitting, and it's called the Gonyov shawl, and I've knitted quite a lot there, and I thought, well, it's a lovely intuitive pattern which I can just sit, and it's just enough to keep you sort of your brain working as I'd be sitting on the plane. But I bought some Knit Pro Symphony needles, and I bought these thinking that they'd be less likely to be taken off me on the plane. When I actually went through the security and everything, nobody mentioned whether I'd had knitting needles or not. They didn't even check to see whether they were wooden, so I don't know if I'd have taken metal, they probably wouldn't have taken any notice. So I'm sure it'd have been fine if I hadn't have put these flipping wooden needles on. But I got on the plane and I literally knitted. I knitted one row and it was fine. Then I started on a second row and there was a snag in one of the needles. I don't know if I can find it now. Oh, there we go. I doubt if you'll be able to see it on camera. Trying to cover my face. I don't think I can feel it though. There's a massive split where it's split along the grain. I was very cross. I could not knit anymore, so I literally knitted a row and a half on the plane. So this is why I've only knitted just a sock, because I would have knitted for 9 hours otherwise. So I'm so cross, and I have noticed that I have bought a couple of pairs of those Knit Pro Symphony needles before, and they've split as well. Now, whether it's because I knit so tight that it makes them split easier for some reason, or snags onto the wood easier, I don't know. Has anybody had this problem? My Knit Pro Zings, Knit Pro Zings and Knit Pro Nova Silvers, obviously I haven't had any trouble with splitting or anything, they're fine. But Knit Pro Symphony, this is why I don't like wooden needles. I'm sure there's loads of lovely ones out there, I'm just not going to buy those again. So that was my ordeal on the way on holiday. It wasn't that bad. I had movies. It wasn't. I was thinking, what am I going to do for 9 hours? But it was okay. I watched lots of films. I watched the new Harry Potter. What's it called? Fantastic Beasts. How could I forget? I watched Fantastic Beasts. It was fine. So I will stop rambling now and go on to my next work in progress. So the lovely Ruth from Knitterarium is also doing multiple knit-alongs all through the year, and this month is called Just Be You. See, I remembered to look up this time, Ruth. Hi, Ruth. Right, so I'm doing the Dying of the Light for the knit-along for the Just Be You section of this year's knit-along. That made no sense. So all of the knit-alongs throughout the year are going to be called the Year of You, according to Ruth. And the May to June section, which is called Just Be You, will be a separate sort of part of that knit-along. And I'm going to knit this as part of that knit-along. Hope that made sense. I'm not used to this podcasting lark. So I'm doing the Dying of the Light shawl, which I've been dying to cast on for ages. So I did actually cast it on just before I went away on holiday, or just before the wedding. And I got a little bit done. I did actually take this on holiday as well. Oops, I'm making a big noise. But unfortunately, somehow, the knitting come off the needles. Don't ask me how. I think I'd left it halfway through a row and some of the knitting come off my needles, and I just couldn't face it for the entirety of the holiday. So, oh, sorry about the clanging about. So I've done this much so far. It might be easier if I show you the front. So I've done this much so far. And you can see that there's a pale purple stripe in there of a different colour, which is this part here. So I've just started the second section. I'm about there on, I think, somewhere there. So I've done quite well this week. So I think I'd got to just before the eyelet holes, before I went away, and then I had to tear it back or rip it back because some of my stitches had come off. I hate fixing knitting sometimes. But it's fine now. I'm away and I haven't made any mistakes so far, I don't think. I probably have, but we're not going to look at it too closely to find out. I was a little bit worried about the contrast between this grey and this pinky purple not being harsh enough, but I think I like it to be quite subtle. And I haven't actually told you what the yarn is. Out of practice. So this is fondant fibre, and this is the Hannah base, which is silk and merino yarn, and it's called, so Sea Holly is the grey shade, and this pink shade is called Velvet Grape, or pinky purple shade, and there's little speckles of the sort of pinky purple colour in the Sea Holly colourway as well, so that's lovely. I bought them together especially to make a shawl, so I'm really pleased with that. I know there doesn't seem to be that much there, but I'm really getting into it now. So I'm actually, Ruth, I'm gonna really try and actually finish something in one of your Knitalongs instead of procrastinating with other projects. I'll just show you what the colours look like in the ball. That's the Velvet Grape colourway by Fondant Fibre, and this one is the Sea Holly. I can't even remember the colourway names after a few seconds. Oh dear, definitely out of practice. So that's well on its way. And I've got one more project that I've been working on. I've got a little pile that I've got buried underneath here. So I've got my socks, mittens with stripes. So as I mentioned before, we're knitting these as a knit along with Emma from Eldenwood Craft, and she's done some sort of bluey green colours but with a darker grey background, and I'm really pleased with how this is coming along. I actually did cast these on 2.5mm DPN needles, and it was really getting on my nerves because I couldn't try it on very well, but with the circulars I can. Plus I always tend to get a little bit of a sort of dent in my knitting with the edge where the needles join. Does that really get on anybody else's nerves? I'm sure it's alright when it's blocked, but I love it when it all comes out lovely and neat and you think, ooh, I love all those cute little stitches. So I've used 4 colours. I've got this grey, I'll try and remember what the colours were. I think this one was called Dove Heather. I think that's the right. So it's Knit Picks Stroll, Stroll Fingering on the Dove Heather base. So that's the pale grey. And then I've got this, this one here, like a darkish green, is Knit Picks, I can't think, Stroll Tweed. There we go, and you can just about see, and it's called Thirst Heather. Sorry about the mess of here. I've just tucked the label on so I don't forget which one's which. And then we've got the pale blue, which is this one here, and it's called Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in the Wonderland Heather. That's a lovely bright. I was umming and ahhing whether to put this in, but I decided to go for it. Makes them look a little bit different. And then lastly, I've got another Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in the Cobblestone Heather for the dark grey bit there. So I'm very impressed with this yarn. It feels really nice, and I'm hoping it'll wear nicely. I know that Emma was saying in her last podcast that she loved it too, but she's never actually been able to see whether it wears well or not, which is the case for me too. So hopefully we'll see whether the mittens are durable or not. So that'd be nice to see. So don't forget, if you want to join in the knit along, Emma at Eldenwood Craft has got a thread open in her Ravelry group where you can discuss projects, which I keep popping in and making comments in every so often. And what I'm going to do is open a finished objects thread. I probably should do that soon because some people knit so quickly, so that you can get your finished objects in and we could draw for prizes from the finished objects thread. So don't forget to put your finished objects in the finished objects thread. And we got some lovely prizes. I know that Emma has received some lovely yarn from Kelly, who is, oh goodness me, what's her? Lakeside Yarns. There we go. It's Lakeside Yarns on Etsy. She's donated a skein of yarn. And both me and Emma are going to do some lovely bags, and I've also received a skein of yarn from another lovely yarn dye, which I'll show you during the confession section. So I'm really pleased with these. I wanted to show you actually how they fit. There's all yarn ends inside, so it's going to look a bit of a mess, hopefully. So you can see there how it's going to fit, and this bottom edge is going to be tucked under. Let's see if I can tuck it under. Not very organised today, are we? We should have. So it'll look something like that, but pulled down a bit more. So Emma was saying that it was a little bit wide for her with this, I think it was 62 stitches that you cast on. But for me, 62 stitches is just nice. For my lovely voluptuous arms. And then you decrease a little bit as you go further up the stripes. So I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm on the 9th stripe. I've got 12 stripes to go until I start doing the decreases, or the thumb gusset bit, not decreases, increases for the thumb gusset. So really exciting. I've been looking at this pattern for absolutely ages, and it's so cute. Lena does some really lovely patterns. I wanted to do some of her sock patterns as well, and also Lena also does a podcast called A Wee Bit Nitty, and she did it a little while ago. Well, I think it was last year, and I always used to watch. She was one of the first podcasts that I used to watch every episode. And she started up doing a podcast again. So if you're interested in like colour work and things, she does some amazing things, and her mum does knitting as well. It's really lovely. So another podcast to watch. Right, so that's all my works in progress done for the knitting. That's everything for that, I think. What have I got on my list? Let me just check that I haven't missed anything out. So I've as you've seen before, I've also got my Cozy Memories blanket and a couple of other projects that I haven't been working on since the last episode, so I didn't show you anything this time. But hopefully I'll get some more work done on those things next time. I shouldn't have so many projects on the go. I will be good. I will reduce them. And then it won't seem like I've got a million projects. It's terrible. So the next section I'm going to talk about is sewing. So I've been doing some sewing of jersey fabric. So I keep saying sew rather a lot today. I think it's the lack of practice. This is the pattern that my mother and father-in-law bought it me for Christmas this year, and I picked it up thinking that this would be fabulous to take on holiday with me. So I started this before we went on honeymoon, and I thought that this design here would be absolutely fabulous. So I actually finished this before we went away. And now, by the magic of technology, I will magic my dressmaking dummy right next to me. Ta-da! This might look a little bit strange because there is actually 2 tops on there. So this one doesn't really show up very well. It's basically this top here, but in a size 18. So it doesn't look quite so elegant. So I took this on holiday with me, and it was actually brilliant for wearing over a swimsuit by the swimming pool. I think it's because I'm quite short. This actually goes really quite long and sort of covers up enough so that you can sort of walk around the pool in it. And I actually really liked this for going around the pool, although it's not particularly flattering because it's not very fitted around the bust. It sort of just hangs off the bust area. But I got this fabric from my local haberdashery, and it's a sort of, I think it might be a sort of viscose mix, so there's not a lot of natural fibres in there. Well, in fact, there's no natural fibres in there, but because it was so sort of drapey, it did seem relatively cool. So back is just, again, like just a plain t-shirt. So because I liked the sort of drape of this t-shirt so much, I thought I'd have a go at making one of the other designs on the same pattern. So I was looking at diagram C there, so you've got a not quite such a drapey top, sort of longer than you would normally expect. So with the magic of technology, ta-da! So this is the second top I completed from the pattern, and it's basically I just cut out a size 18 as well. Now normally I do a bust adjustment, but because it's a jersey, I just thought just gonna try and see if I can get away with no bust adjustments, and I just used the size that fitted my shoulders, which is a size 18. This fabric I had in my stash that I think I ordered it off eBay, but it was a hell of a long time ago, and it was a very cheap thin fabric. And I couldn't actually show you this with it on because you can see my bra through it, so I'm going to have to wear a vest top underneath. I could have lined it, I suppose, but I never thought of that when I was making it. I was thinking nice, cool, light sort of t-shirt for holidays. So the bottom of the top here doesn't lay quite right, which I don't like very much. It's not too bad. I'm not quite sure why the pattern's designed like that, or whether it's to do with something that I've done incorrectly when making it, but it's not too bad. I'm going to tilt you back again. There we go. And then the back is actually really quite long there. It's almost like a dress. But I kind of like the shape. I might consider shortening it just a little bit. But there we go, another simple sort of jersey style top. And to make both of these I used my overlocker machine. Now one thing that I found, so I'll show you, this is one of the overlocker seams I'm going to show you. So I used a grey thread to overlock the grey top, which is pretty much what you'd expect. But I tried some different thread that it actually says it's overlock thread on it. I don't know if you're going to be able to see how fluffy this thread is. You can just about see the edge, but it's not, there's not a very high twist on this at all, and it pulls apart quite easily. It's not going to be very easy to illustrate this. There we go, if I fluff it up even more. So it's basically, there's not a lot of, there's no twist in it at all. So this is supposed to be just for overlock thread. It could be due to my lack of experience, but I absolutely hated using this type of thread on my overlocker. Anybody who has lots of experience with overlockers, do you use this thread? How do you combat? It was an absolute nightmare to thread the needles for a start, and it didn't stitch as well as normal. I'm not sure whether it's my overlocker that didn't get on with the thread, but I don't think I'm going to use this again. It's not ideal. I suppose it stitched fine in the end, and the top, you know, is quite stable and it works okay, but I just didn't enjoy using it. It wasn't fun. But there we go. Any tips on that would be welcome. That'd be cool. So that was two of the styles off the pattern that I've tried out now. I'm wondering whether I should actually have done it this sort of length so it isn't so long on me, because this one here did turn out really almost like a dress. But in fact, because it cuts in just under the bust, it is a lot more flattering than the other one. Because I didn't do a bust adjustment, it's slightly tight around the bust area, but because it's stretch fabric, it does stretch to a slightly larger size. But I may adjust the pattern because it is like a sort of, what do you call it? Princess seam, if that's the one. Because there is a princess seam there, I could theoretically adjust it quite easily, even though you're not really supposed to adjust jersey. But I think if you had a print where it stretched the print quite a lot and it sort of distorted it, you might want to increase the area for the bust. Now I'm going on to Blast from the Past. So I made this cute little donut shape. I've made it into a pin cushion absolutely ages ago. I think this was the first thing I actually uploaded to Ravelry, which is crazy. Such a long time. So this pattern is Iced Donut by Susan Penny, and it's out of the book 20 to Make Knitted Cakes. But if you go onto my Ravelry page, you'll be able to see and find the link to the pattern if you can't find it. So Susan's pattern originally had little beads sewn around it, which look really cute, but I decided to use it as a pin cushion. But I have to arrange all the pins so that they're all nice and even. So one side I did pink, and then the base I did a cream colour. And it's knitted out of some cotton, I think. I've no idea what I've knitted this out of. It was such a long time ago. It may be on my Ravelry page, but it's such a cute little pattern to make into a pin cushion. So I definitely recommend that. So that's my blast from the past for this week. Next I've got gadget. So this time I've got a very knitty related item. So I was looking on Instagram, and my friend Sylvia had been designing some lovely little bracelets and necklaces so you can put progress keepers and stitch markers on. So I went over to her Etsy shop and I purchased one. So I bought a little bracelet. Now, this is going to be difficult to show you. Let's swing them round to that side. So I've got some lovely progress keepers there that are hooked onto a little bracelet that came together. So lovely Sylvia had designed these so that the loop here threads onto the bracelet, but what I've done is I've just added some little jump rings so that I can hook these progress keepers on and off, look, whenever I fancy just using them, which is very handy. So I loved Sylvia's lovely idea of being able to sort of carry around your stitch markers around your wrist, and she sent me this lovely little winged progress keeper for some luck, and these are the this stitch marker is one of those higher sharp ones, and it's in a beautiful purple, and I thought that these lovely blue jump rings go nicely with it, so that was lovely. So thank you, Sylvia, from having such a lovely idea. I couldn't resist getting one. So if you want to have a look at Sylvia's Etsy shop, it's called Little Red Robin, and Little Red Robin, or Sylvia, is in Cambridge, so it's a nice local place to order things from, and her prices are very very reasonable, and the postage and packaging is too, so go and have a look there. So that's my gadget for this week, and I think we're on to confessions. This might be a bit ridiculous, so if you don't want to listen to all this, I don't expect you to listen to it all. But afterwards I'm going to be doing Ask Me Anything for a couple of questions that I got in the Ravelry thread, so if you're interested in that you might want to skip along a little bit. So I'll make a start. We've basically got an entire basket full of stuff. Now some of this was given to me as gifts for my wedding, so I'll show you those first. So my lovely friend Heather sent me these sock yarns, me and Adam, these sock yarns, and they came with some lovely mugs which I'm using. It says a lovely E on it for Ellie. Off topic, but I'm drinking some Skinny Vanilla Clipper tea. This is rather tasty. So these yarns came in the mugs, one for me, one for Adam, so an A for Adam and an E for me, and they said that I'd got to knit Adam a pair of socks and me a pair of socks with him. So this is, they're all Sublime Aran tweed yarn, but I don't think, because it's a single twist, I'll use them for socks, because I don't think that it'll be very durable, but I think some, like a cowl or scarf or something will be lovely. It's a lovely tweedy texture. So there's that one. Thank you, Heather. I don't think she watches, but I'll say thank you anyway. So also my colleagues at work bought me some hedgerow yarns. Look at that. So this is the high twist sock that hedgerow yarn does, and the colourway is called Mystic Rainbow, and that is very pretty. There's some really lovely shades there, and it's coming up really accurately on the camera, which is lovely. So that was really lovely from work. I've got one of the people at work is a avid knitter just like me, called Rob. So hi Rob, if you're watching. And he knows what I like. So I think I had one more gift as part of a wedding present. And these were from my mother and father-in-law. So these are from Mothy and the Squid. Now, if you've noticed behind me, but I have some of this. So I've now got 2 skeins. This is on the sparkle base though, and that one hasn't got sparkle in it, but I think that that would work together nicely. And it's called Hawk Moth. And actually, if you look on the Mothy and the Squid Etsy shop, you can see the moth that this is based on, and it is amazing, absolutely gorgeous. So you can see those lovely greens and pinks in there. Lovely. And this is also from Mothy and the Squid, from my mother and father-in-law, which is rather lovely. And this one's called Blue Raspberry, and that's really lovely. I hadn't actually seen this one before. And it's got some lovely, these sort of blues are my favourite. Really pretty. Lovely hand-dyed yarn. So those are gorgeous too. So those are all the gifts, I think. So, because I was going to America, I thought I could buy things and get it shipped to the hotel. And I wanted to buy some hand-dyed yarn from America that I haven't actually tried before. So I chose two hand dyers. So the first one I chose is Bad Wolf Girl Studio, which is the lovely Meg, and she does the Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits podcast. Now I ordered these two. This one's Galaxy and this is Newt Scaramanda. Did I just say that right? Scaramanda. I'm sure it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm having a moment. So these were the two that I thought I absolutely had to have. This sort of bluey tealy colour is my absolute favourite, and when I saw it coupled with the sort of yellow and amber orangey colours, I just had to have it. And I'd seen this on what's it called? The Sisters podcast. Hey Sister. There we go. I think my brain's rotted slightly. They'd had some on the Hey Sister podcast, and I can't remember their names, I'm afraid. But one of the sisters was knitting a lovely pair of Doctor Who socks with them, and it looked amazing, so I had to have some of these. So, and oh, the lovely Meg sent us another Gryffindor skein with it. And this I'm going to, because I've got so much yarn, I couldn't just accept it as a gift. I thought I had to give it as one of the prizes for the podcast. So this will be one of the part of the prize for the Socks with Stripes knit-along that I'm doing with Emma from Eldenwood Craft. So I'll do a prize package with one of my bags with this as well. So and a few other things that I haven't put together yet, but once I decide, I'll share that with you. I'm going to try and put these in other positions. Oh, so before I went away on honeymoon, I just had to treat myself to these mini skeins. Oh my gosh. How am I going to get them all on screen at once? I think they're all on. I think you can see them. It's difficult for me to see on the camera screen as well. So I bought these gorgeous, gorgeous minis. And these are called Spring into Wool by Fondant Fibre. And they're called Skinettes, which is absolutely gorgeous. So I just had to have these. I'd actually seen them on the Bakery Bears podcast, I think. And this one really drew me. I just thought I'm going to have it. Oh, they're all beautiful though. So I'm really pleased I managed to get some of those before they sold out. So that was those. Oh, and I also ordered, I'm switching backwards and forwards here. I also ordered some lovely yarn from Lolo Did It to get to be delivered to the hotel. And luckily, everything I ordered got there fine, so it was okay. So I bought these 2 skeins. And I'd been eyeing up this yarn for a long time. It's called Pretty Little Zombies, and it's got those speckled bits of green and pink and red in there, and little light bits of blue, which I've been wanting for ages, so I had to treat myself to this. And then there was some, Laura had got some lovely sort of green and blues yarn, and this is called I Love Daryl, and I've got no idea what that actually means. So it's probably some reference to one of the series that I don't actually watch. Which I should do, there's just not enough hours in the day, but that's a lovely range of colours too in there, so I'm really pleased with that. They're really tightly wrapped, these ones, so those are really, I love those too. And then I went shopping on holiday. What did I, oh yeah, there's more stuff, but I'm going to show you some next time. So when we got in the first week, I think, I realised that there was a Michael's just up the road from us, and I'd seen this yarn on the Crazy Sock Lady podcast, so I thought, oh, I need to get some of this. I'd seen how lovely it knitted up when she'd knitted it, so I had to have a couple of balls. I don't know if you can see the colours, there's some reds and blues, and I think that would be really nice for Adam for a pair of socks, but the stripes have come up really defined, so once I cast those on you'll see them. And then I went to Joann's, which had lots of fabric in, which I'll show you some of later that I bought, but I also picked up some yarn there, and it's called Deborah Norville, I think it says, the Deborah Norville collection Serenity sock weight yarn, and it's 50% superwash merino, 25% rayon and 25% nylon, which I'd not tried this sort of range before. I had some really pretty colours in there, so with lovely blue, greens and pinks, so I was really pleased to get a skein of this. And I thought that I'd do Lulay's short socks with ventilation with this. I thought that'd be lovely. So that's, I see I've got plans exactly what I'm going to knit. And then I found that there was a lovely shop that did hand dyed yarn, and it was called Four Pearls, and a few people had suggested this shop to me online, so thank you so much. And I'm so glad that multiples of you did, because I might not have ended up going to visit, because it was about a 35-40 mile drive from our hotel, which doesn't sound very far, but when you are used to driving on the other side of the road and not used to how the road rules work, it's a bit scary. Well, Adam drove anyway, so I don't know why I'm complaining. But I went to Four Pearls and there was so much lovely hand-dyed yarn. I picked these two skeins out, which I thought I'd try and get something that's hand-dyed in America, so that I wouldn't be buying something that's been shipped over from the UK or something ridiculous. So I bought those two skeins. So I'll show you this one first. Lovely bright patches of brightly coloured yarn, and this is called Three Irish Girls Yarn Ink, and they are, I can't remember where, I did look it up where exactly they're from, but they're an American based company and they make some gorgeous yarns. And this is called Baja, I think, the colourway, and it's called, the actual base is called Adorn Luxe, 85% merino, 15% nylon, and I just could not resist those colours, absolutely gorgeous. So that's skein number one, and then skein number two is this one. I don't think that this is coming up quite as lovely as it is in real life, because it's slightly darker in here to show up the colours. The shadow is kind of masking how gorgeous it is. It's much nicer in real life. And this one is from the Three Irish Girls as well, and it's called Fire Dance, and it's on the same base. So I was really lucky to pick those two lovely skeins up of hand-dyed yarn. And I also decided to pick up some sport weight cascade yarns from there as well, because I thought I'd try and knit Adam some slightly thicker socks. But I only bought one ball, and I'm contemplating whether I've bought enough, because normally with fingering weight I can get a pair of socks and have quite a lot left extra, and I figured that sport weight I'll probably just about get a pair. Has anybody knit a sport weight socks out of 100 grams before? Let me know if you have managed to. If not, I might have to just do contrast cuffs and heels. I'm sure it'll be fine. But it's got a lovely blue striping effect there. I thought that'd be lovely for Adam. It's a bit boring for you guys to see because it's always the same sort of manly blue colours, but never mind. He likes his blues, and so do I must admit. And I think that's all my yarn that I bought. That's very good. So a lot of it is gifts. I'm trying to just put it to one side now so that I've got enough room in front of me. So I did actually buy some fabric as well from Joanne's fabric shop. I'm just going to lean down here. So I did buy some quilting fabric, but I'll show you that next time. I'm going to show you the stretch fabric I bought. So I got a lovely piece with some blue and red and pink speckles on it, which is going to be lovely. This is quite a nice drapey stretch fabric. And there's some sort of blue shapes that kind of like look like buttons on this one. This is another stretch fabric as well. I don't know exactly what the content is because I failed to take a photograph of the label, which is crazy. So that's a lovely print too. So I got a couple of yards of each of these, so I'd have plenty for at least a top anyway. And then this is my favourite. It's a slightly larger print on this one, but some gorgeous lovely flowers. I thought they had much better range of stretch fabrics than I normally see in the UK shops, so I had to buy a few of those. So like I say, I'll show you the quilt fabric I bought on the next episode because I've got a ridiculous amount of confessions this week. So I hope I didn't bore you too much. I think that's all the things that I bought. I have had some lovely handmade gifts that I had as wedding presents, but I might leave them until the next episode, just because it's going to make this episode ridiculously long. So next time I'm going to show you some lovely things that my friends had made for me as gifts. So I'm now going to go on to the questions for Ask Me Anything. So I had a nice question from Angela, who's Angela8626 on Ravelry, and she was asking, so she was saying she was a multitasker and she liked to do things at the same time, and she wanted to know, where did I craft? Do I do the most on the go or watching the television? So Angela, what I do is, in terms of knitting, I tend to knit sort of at coffee time, at work, or when I'm waiting at the doctor's or something, on the go, doing sort of a plain vanilla sock, I'd say. And then in the evenings, when I'm sort of a bit tired, I like to sit in front of the television and knit something slightly more complicated. But I tend to do all my sewing and things that require a bit much sort of more attention, I suppose, in my craft room, and that normally happens at the weekends. So I suppose most of the time I'm sort of watching television. So it's all good fun. But I do like having a sort of separate craft room. It's absolutely fantastic. I made sure that when we moved last time that we'd have somewhere for me to put all my things. Stop Adam nosing. So thanks for that question, Angela. I hope that answered it thoroughly enough. So we had another question, and this was from Marie, who is Hilljack Knits on Ravelry, and she was asking, that is really interesting actually, how much yarn do you need for the heels and toes of your socks? So I weighed this out, so I'm hoping that it's consistent with other pairs. So with my Tadasi with Love socks, I'd done contrast heel and toes. I didn't do contrast cuffs, so this is just for the heels and toes. I used 55 grams of the main colour, and I'd used 15 grams of the contrast colour for the heels and toes, so it must be 7 grams per sock. So if you had a 20 gram mini skein, that would be plenty to do your heels and toes. So I hope that is helpful for everybody. But this is, I'm talking about a size 6 sock I made for Adam. So if you've got, I suppose it won't make any difference for the heels and toes though, those should remain about the same. If you've got a longer foot, then just the main colour will be increased. So I hope that's consistent for everybody. next time I do a pair of socks with heels and toes, I'll make a note of the weight of those as well and see if it is any different. So that was just with normal 4-ply fingering yarn, so hopefully it should be quite similar. So I think that's it for this time. Thank you so much for joining me and waiting for so long for a new episode, and I hope to join you in another couple of weeks. Bye!